And they're illustrated books, so they're fun to read. They're not just text. They have a lot of cool pictures in them. So you're in for a real treat today. So when you go home tonight and you talk to your mom or your dad or your
Colleen. And I don't know how I came to be number 2. I guess I was just the last person standing. But it's really a pleasure for me to welcome you here today. First of all, happy Valentine's Day.
Happy Valentine's Day to you.
And I see a few people in red. I tried to do my little bit for the little pink tie. So, again, my name is Robert Newland. I'm Deputy Librarian of Congress, and it's my pleasure, on behalf of our Librarian of Congress, Dr. Carla Hayden, to welcome you to the library. And I wish Dr. Hayden was with us today. She has strep throat. So, Dr. Hayden, if you're watching, because we're live streaming on YouTube right now, we want you to get better. You need to come back as soon as possible. Number 2 is having a few problems today. So this is great. We have a wonderful program planned for you today. And we're doing it with one of our longtime partners, Everybody Wins DC, a program I've known about for a long time and really admire. This is part of their career literacy series in which they select a partner for an event and provide everyone with a free book. I'd want to take just a moment to thank our co-sponsor, Everybody Wins, and I'd also like to introduce their new executive director, Molly Tees. Molly? Welcome and thank you, and I know you're going to take Everybody Wins to new heights, so we're just delighted you're here. Thanks to Everybody Wins, you all are going to get a copy of the National Book Award winning March the 3rd. Oh, I hope I get one too. It's a graphic novel by Congressman Lewis and his digital director and policy advisor, Andrew Aydin. So together, they have written a fascinating account of the civil rights marches in Selma, Alabama in 1965. Also with us today, and this is a real treat, from WAMU Radio is longtime talk show host Kojo Nnamdi. We're very lucky, yes.
You're very kind.
We're very fortunate to have him here today, taking time out of his very busy schedule. And he is going to moderate our question and answer period, which is when you all will have the opportunity to ask questions. The program is being recorded, so please wait for a microphone before you ask your question. And now I want to go off script for just 2 minutes. The first thing is, I just saw the wonderful PBS documentary about the life of Congressman Lewis. It's really unbelievable. And one of the things that he talks about in the documentary is the great civil rights icon, Rosa Parks. And I want you to know that the Library of Congress, has the Rosa Parks papers in our collection, and they're all online. You can go to our website, loc.gov, and you can get you can see all of Rosa Parks' papers, and they are amazing. The second thing I want to say is that I was in Orlando in June when Congressman Lewis spoke at a memorial service for the victims of those killed in the nightclub in Orlando. And Congressman Lewis, I have to tell you, it was one of the most inspiring speeches I have ever heard. And I just want to thank you for all you do, and I'm just really grateful. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to Kojo, and have a wonderful time, and thank you so much.
Thank you. And thank you all for coming. The third installment in the March trilogy, written by Congressman John Lewis and Andrew Aydin, illustrated by Nate Powell, has won a lot of awards. The National Book Award for Young People's Literature, the Coretta Scott King Book Award, the Michael L. Prince Award, the Robert F. Seibert Informational Book Award, the Young Adult Library Services Association Award for Excellence in Nonfiction, the Walter Dean Myers Award for Outstanding Children's Literature, Young Adult category, and that's just to name a few. It's a bestseller that has helped to further break down the barriers between graphic novels or comics and powerful works of nonfiction. And so I am delighted to talk with the Congressman and Andrew Aydin today to talk about it. Could you please welcome Congressman John Lewis? And Andrew Aydin. Congressman Lewis, I'll start with you. You've been tireless in your work, not just on this book, but in talking about it with students, with librarians, with journalists. You gave a very moving speech in accepting the National Book Award late last year. What does the recognition this work has received mean to you?
Well, thank you. First of all, Kojo, it's good to see you, brother.
Always
It's
a pleasure.
always good to see you. And thank you for all of the good and great things that you continue to do. It's good to be here at the Library of Congress. Good to see all of you, beautiful, handsome young people. You look so wonderful. You look so smart. When I go and speak about this book, reread the book, I turn the pages and see certain drawings or images, it takes me back to another part of my life. You know, from reading March, book 1, book 2, book 3, I grew up in rural Alabama, 50 miles from Montgomery, outside of a little place called Troy. So when I received the honor along with Andrew Aydin and Nate Powell, it was too much. We stood together, and I was lost for words. It took me back to rural Alabama in 1956, when I was 16 years old with some of my brothers and sisters and cousins. We went to a little library to try to get library cards, trying to check out some books. And we were told by the librarian that the library was for whites only and not for colors. I didn't go back to that library until many, many years later. By this time, I'm in the Congress for a book signing. So hundreds of blacks and white citizens showed up. And after the book signing, after we had some refreshment, they gave me a library card. And to work with Andrew, who was so gifted and so smart, and Nate Powell, it's been a work of love. And to see young people standing in line to get the book signed, and to take a seat in the middle of the floor, at a table, a desk, and read the book. And as I travel around America, different places, people come up with the book. So I'm buying this book for my son, and my brother, my nieces, my nephews. So I think it's a good thing. We all should read. Books are powerful. They can take us places that we dare to go.
Well, I'm glad you finally got your library card.
Yes.
Before we get to the third book in the series, let's talk a little bit about why this project took the shape that it did as a graphic novel. Comics actually have some ties to the civil rights movement. When did you first encounter a comic that spoke to the civil rights movement?
In late 1957 or either early 1958, I remember reading a comic book called Martin Luther King Jr. and the Montgomery Story. It sold for 10 cents. And Andrew would tell you through his research, he discovered that Dr. King helped edit this book. This book became like a roadmap for those of us that got involved in the American Civil Rights Movement. It told the story of Montgomery. It spoke about the way of peace, the way of love, the philosophy of nonviolence, how people organize, how people walk, shared rides, in cars, church buses, rather than ride segregated buses in Montgomery. In Montgomery during the 50s, black and white people couldn't be seated together on a city bus. Even here in Washington, D.C., in 1961, during the Freedom Rise, black people and white people couldn't be seated together, leaving Washington to travel through Virginia or North Carolina or South Carolina or Georgia, Alabama, Mississippi. So public transportation, whether the trains or buses, have been a means of carrying the story and the way of the civil rights movement. It helped to bring down those signs that said white waiting, colored waiting, white men, colored men, white women, colored women. And I said to young people all the time, growing up today, you won't see those signs on a bus or on a train or waiting room. The only place that you'll see those signs today would be in a book, in a museum, or on a video. They're gone, and it's my hope they will never, ever return.
Andrew Aydin, despite the fact that the congressman encountered that graphic novel or comic about Dr. King when he was just 17 years old, you still had a little trouble convincing your colleagues and even the congressman himself to write a graphic novel. Why did you think this was the right format for this project?
I grew up in Atlanta. The congressman's been my congressman since I was 3 years old. I went to Atlanta public schools. And I heard the story of the civil rights movement over and over and over again. I heard it in documentaries. I heard it in books. I heard people tell the stories. But to me, I'd grown up reading comics. It was sort of my salvation. It was my refuge, right? My father left when I was 4 or 5 years old, and it was sort of where I turned. I wanted stories of heroes who wanted justice because it was the right thing to do. And that summer, should I beatbox with that? That summer of the campaign in 2008, Barack Obama was sweeping through the Democratic primaries. People in politics were fundamentally reevaluating the way in which they communicate with young people, but with everyone, whether it's the internet, the visual literacy that comes with that, or simply just how you talk to people, like what we're willing to talk about. And so as it came down to the end of that campaign, and the congressman tells me about Martin Luther King and the Montgomery story, I mean, these were two things that were incredibly important in my life. Here I'd spent the whole summer watching John Lewis tell these stories that I had never heard growing up in Atlanta. The story of SNCC, the story of the young people, which was so much different than the story I'd always been told. And at the same time, the congressman was telling me that he read a comic book when he thought about joining the movement. I mean, the 24-year-old nerd just kind of exploded, you know? And it felt like it was okay to be me, right? Like that, like, oh, maybe it wasn't so weird for me to like comics after all. Maybe it was all the other people who put them down who were wrong. And so when I started thinking, you know, there should be a comic book about John Lewis's life, it was, in a sense, to show everyone what I had just seen that summer, what I had witnessed firsthand. And hearing John Lewis tell those stories, seeing him act it out, seeing him in front of you, that was a big part of it for me. And so trying to find a way to capture that experience and put it down on paper, words alone could not do it the justice that it needed. So,
what do you make of the shift in the perception of graphic novels that the March trilogy has been a part of, maybe a leader in?
I think we broke the publishing system a little bit. And I think, in a sense, March is putting it back together stronger than it was before. I don't think we set out to do that, per se. We set out to tell John Lewis's story. We set out to tell it in a way that would reach more people than it had ever been reached by this story. But the result is I think comics are coming of age because of the internet. Because, like all of y'all are digital natives. You grew up on the internet. You communicate through memes, right? like they don't admit it, but like you have whole conversations with, you know, Success Kid and everything else. And so, yeah, somebody's got, okay. And so for this generation, comics is their natural language. It is graphic narrative. It is sequential storytelling. It is just simply how this generation speaks to each other. And so it was only a matter of time. I think what we're most fortunate about is that it was John Lewis's story that broke down that barrier. That it was a little bit ahead of its time, and so it was right there when it needed to be there. As opposed to, you know, we could all be celebrating the I don't know, the great puppy wars or something, you know, that really wouldn't resonate with us the way that John Lewis's story does, and that needs to be immortalized the way John Lewis's story does. And so I think it was a combination of being just a little bit ahead of our time and being at the right place for this generation to be able to embrace it because it's their language.
Congressman Lewis, did it take a lot of convincing to get you involved in writing what some people
Well,
would have thought was a comic?
Andrew, I think probably would say, took a little time, but he didn't give up. You know, he just said, "Congressman, you should write a comic book." And so maybe he came back again, and I don't know how many times he came back.
Who's counting?
We didn't keep count. And I said, I finally said something like, "Yes, you do it with me." And the rest is history.
Indeed, a remarkable history. This trilogy begins as a reflection on the eve of President Obama's inauguration, a reflection on the work you did during the Civil Rights Movement, and it ends, more to come here. Are we in a period now where we're seeing that there's more work to be done here?
Well, I think we are. I just left for an unbelievable meeting. I will not go into any long discussion about it. But I think in America today, right now, people are saying, where are we going as a nation and as a people? Are we going backward? Are we going to stand still? Or whether we're going to go forward? I think March tells us all that we've come a distance, we made a lot of progress, but there are forces that want to slow us down or take us back. And we would like for people to be hopeful, to be optimistic, and to understand that we're one people, that it doesn't matter whether we're black or white, Latino, Asian American, or Native American, that we all live in the same house, not just the American house, but the world house. There was a man by the name of A. Philip Randolph that we speak about because he was the man who called together the march on Washington. And he used to say from time to time, maybe our foremothers and our forefathers all came to this great land in different ships, but we're all in the same boat now. We have to look out for each other and care for each other. And Dr. King said on one occasion, and he said it so beautifully, that we must learn to live together as one family, as one people. If not, we will perish as fools. And I think this is the message that we tried to convey in March, that it's better to love, it's better to abide by the principles and the philosophy of nonviolence, and never hate, for hate is too heavy a burden to bear.
A. Philip Randolph was the head of the Brotherhood of Sleeping Car Porters. And as Congressman Lewis said, he called the March on Washington together in 1963. Andrew Aydin, as you were going through this process with the congressman, it gave you not only a perspective on his life, but did it give you an additional perspective on history that allows you to better interpret the present?
Absolutely. When we first debuted Book One, we went to San Diego Comic-Con, which is a more of my people, right? And so we start off, you give a little speech about, this is what my book is about, right? And I said, have any of you guys watched Battlestar Galactica? It's Comic-Con, so every hand in the room went up. And I said, well then, you'll remember, all of this has happened before, and all of this will happen again. And this was in 2013. This was before Ferguson. This was before Eric Garner. This was before the election. This was at a time when I think people thought it was going to be quiet for a while. But the more you understand about John Lewis's story and how much of our politics today are a direct result from forces trying to oppose the progress that he made, the more it seemed like an inevitable conflict was coming. And at the same time, I hope we conveyed the optimism that the activists today need, that the young people that they need. I'll often ask the question or pose it, we have SCLC still. We have the NAACP still. We have the Urban League still. What we don't have today is the Student Nonviolent Coordinating Committee. We don't have an organization of young people dedicated to direct action that is completely staffed and organized and run by young people. And so when you look at it in that sort of context today, history is your guide.
What stood out to you that maybe you didn't know about before? And I'll tell you what stood out to me when I read this. I am, as many people know, from the Caribbean. And when I read about an attorney who represented the congressman early in his activism named Alexander Luby, and Alexander Luby, it turned out, was from Antigua, West Indies. I was like, whoa, I'm much more interested in this story now. Did you have those kinds of experiences, Andrew? Who stood out to you that maybe you did not know about beforehand?
There was so many of them. I mean, in Nashville, I had no idea about Will Campbell or Kelly Miller Smith. Many of the people that played such a formative role. I mean, Jim Lawson, right off the bat. I mean, I'd heard about him and the congressman had spoken about him, but the extent of Reverend Lawson's role in the civil rights movement in and of itself is sort of been lost, and I hope we resurrected his contribution because it is so powerful. I mean, he may be the most influential figure on the movement behind Martin Luther King. But then it was things like Bayard Rustin. And, I didn't know Strom Thurmond had outed him as a gay man on the floor of the United States Senate. And when you see people do something similar to that today, it's hard not to feel as if they walk in the legacy of Strom Thurmond. Or in that vein, I mean, I came to really appreciate the relationship between A. Philip Randolph and Bayard Rustin. Randolph actually threatened the first March on Washington in 1941, and in effect made FDR blink and desegregate parts of the military-industrial complex. And so when it was coming down to the end of Book 2's research period, I read an interview from Rustin, and they asked him, what was the most meaningful moment of your life? And he said, there was this moment at the end of the March on Washington, and he came back to the office, and he saw A. Philip Randolph looking at a sign, and he started teasing him. Hey, boss, there's not a piece of trash or garbage. It's completely cleaned up. Thinking it was a celebratory moment. And Randolph turned around, and he had tears streaming down his face. And he just grabbed Rustin and gave him a hug and said, thank you, Bayard. And he said that was the most meaningful moment of his life, and here it was buried in an interview in a textbook somewhere. And I thought, what a privilege to be able to offer our own thank you to him for his contribution. A thank you that was long, long overdue. Things like that.
I should say to the young people here, when you pass through Union Station, there's a bus of A. Philip Randolph. He was this unbelievable man who was born in Jacksonville, Florida, moved to New York City, and became a champion of human rights, civil rights, labor rights. And he had the ability to organize and move people and influence, as Andrew stated, presidents. It was A. Phil Randolph, that called that meeting with President Kennedy. We had the first meeting to discuss the possibility of a march on Washington. And you speak about Z. Alexander Luby, amazing lawyer, just an unbelievable human being. When we were sitting in and marching as students, his home was bombed early one morning. It destroyed part of his house. His wife was knocked out of her bed. It was near Fish University, Meharry Medical School. And because they bombed his home, the Klan tried to kill him and destroy him. We made a decision to march. When we heard about it, like 6:30 in the morning, we sent a telegram to the mayor of the city of Nashville saying, in effect, Mr. Mayor, meet on the steps of City Hall at noon. And by noon, go ahead.
High noon.
High noon.
Because you've been watching Westerns.
That's right, high noon. That's right, Andrew, high noon.
One of my favorite Westerns.
And we had thousands and thousands of young people, black and white, high school students, college students, parents, teachers, college professors. And the mayor said, yes, I favor desegregation at the lunch counters and the restaurants.
There's so much history packed into this trilogy, so many names that jump out at you. Al Lowenstein, Ella Baker, James Foreman, Bob Moses, Fannie Lou Hamer. Talk a little bit about any one of those people who our students here might not know about.
Andrew?
I'd go with Ella Baker right off the bat. I mean, she was the mother of the movement,
Yep.
and is so pivotal in a way that's not fully understood today. And I hope we conveyed that as much as possible, because she's one of those characters that lives with you through all of the books. She was there at the founding of SNCC, and she was there at the founding of the Mississippi Freedom Democratic Party. She was a keynote speaker at their political convention in August of 1964. She was so important, and I think one of the great tragedies of the history that's been told thus far is that women's roles during the movement have been marginalized. And I think for us, it was so important to correct that, to show women like Fannie Lou Hamer and Ella Baker and Diane Nash and Genevieve Hughes and everybody else who participated in one way or the other, because they so often were the ones who did the nitty-gritty. They didn't push to be the one in the photograph. They pushed to be the one who did the work, who achieved the hardest part.
Fascinating people. When I first came to Washington, among my mentors were people who worked with the congressman in SNCC. And so I knew all of those names, but didn't quite know the details of the history of those individuals. The trilogy helped me to understand that, why my friends revered Ella Baker and why they revered Bob Moses so much during those times. But you two worked with illustrator Nate Powell on the series, and his images are vivid, sometimes difficult to look at. Congressman Lewis, was it difficult for you to think back to those times and see them depicted in black and white in the pages of this
Well,
series?
yes, and it's still difficult today. When I pick up this book, this is book 3, but book 1 and book 2, and see some of the images, sometimes I tear up, and sometimes I cry. There is an illustration in this book depicting me marching, and I love it because I guess as young people, and I'm not that young anymore, but I did look so young, so young. I had all of my hair, and I was a few pounds lighter, and to see me with my backpack. Back in 1965, when we were attempting to march from Selma to Montgomery, I thought we were going to be arrested and go to jail. So I bought a backpack from an Army surplus store, of all places, and I wanted to have something to read while I was in jail. So I thought I was going to really go to jail. So I had 2 books. I wanted to have something to eat. I had an apple and I had an orange. Since I was going to be in jail with my friends and my colleagues, I wanted to be able to brush my teeth. So I had toothpaste and toothbrush. And when you look at book 3 and turn the page, Andrew, you know I've told you this, I love that image of this strong, young John Lewis getting ready to walk across that bridge.
With an apple and an orange. You know, reading these books, one discovers that you often went against the grain of what others in the movement were doing or wanted to do. Skipping the signing ceremony for the Civil Rights Act, keeping the protests going when the so-called Big Six asked you not to, going ahead with the aforementioned Selma to Montgomery March when others in SNCC were against it. And you talk a lot about this idea of good trouble, about standing up for what's right even when it's not popular, when it's not easy. Where did you get that strength from? What do you want these young people to know about the notion of good trouble? Maybe just as important, how do you know you're getting into the good kind of trouble and not the bad kind?
Well, it's very simple. When I was growing up and would visit the little town of Troy, visit Montgomery, Troy is about 10 miles from where I grew up. You go downtown Troy, you see the signs that say white and colored. To go to a movie on a Saturday afternoon, all of us little black children had to go upstairs to the balcony. And all of the white children went downstairs. I would come home and ask my mother, my father, my grandparents, why? And they would say, that's the way it is. Don't get in trouble. But I heard of Rosa Parks when I was 15 years old. And I met Rosa Parks when I was 17. I heard of Dr. King when I was 15 years old, and I met him when I was 18. It changed my life, and so I was inspired to get in what I call good trouble, necessary trouble, and I've been getting in trouble ever since. So it's very simple to me. When you see something that is not right, not fair, not just, you have an obligation to say something, to do something. We cannot afford to be silent. Because if we're silent, people think you like being mistreated. We have to resist and say, that's not right, that's not fair, that's not just.
For the students in this room who live in the District of Columbia, a city that has no voting rights in Congress, residents of whom many would like to see this as a state, these young people may one day decide to be active now and even more so when they reach voting age. What do you make of these very fundamental questions that persist around the issue of voting rights, not only in the district in a very vivid way, but in a lot of jurisdictions in the United States when it comes to adequate voter representation? The Voting Rights Act was passed in 1965. And he was a resident of the district.
Yeah, I mean, as a DC resident, I think it's long overdue that we had full representation in Congress. I don't understand why we can live in this city and pay taxes in this city, and you know, it seems so often that the opponents of voting rights are also the same people who declare their rights based on how much taxes they pay. And yet here we are in the district and we pay quite a bit and we don't have full representation. I think for young people in particular, it's a tremendous opportunity for civil disobedience. I'm just saying, don't tell your teachers. But I think we have to acknowledge the fact that voting rights are under attack all across the country, whether it is fictitious claims that millions of people are voting illegally, which they're not. Let's just say it, they're not. Or the attempts to make it harder and more difficult for people to register and vote. Full disclosure, I worked on one of the campaigns in November, and I was shocked to find that only one party has voter protection teams. The other party doesn't need them. Their voters don't have any trouble. And that was profound to me, that we could create a system that was so lopsided in its advantages. But when you work for John Lewis, it's much more than that. It is about a fundamental American belief that we are all created equal. And in that belief, that we are all given the right to vote as participants in the American democracy. And when you work against that, you work against what makes America strong and what has brought America to the forefront of global power. And it makes America weak.
For those of you in this room who may be thinking of what your rights are and should be, you should know that sitting in this room is the Attorney General of the District of Columbia. So when this is over, you should go over and have a chat with him. Carla, would you raise your hand, please? So you know who he is. Yes. Congressman Lewis, today we see a lot of energy, a lot of young people who would like to affect change, but there have been those who say that these current movements lack direction and they lack leadership and cohesion. Some of the things that people said about SNCC back in 1960, as I recall. What is your hope for what these books and for what you can teach this younger generation of activists and protesters?
Well, it is my hope that these books would inspire another generation, but especially young people, the young, to learn the lessons of the movement, what we did and what we tried to do, and how we succeeded. And to be hopeful, to be optimistic, and to never give up, but hold on to your dreams. It boiled down to these books being a roadmap, a blueprint, to get in the way. You know, during the 60s, I got arrested a few times, 40 times. And since I've been in Congress, another 5 times. My last arrest, this young man I left my money someplace, so he had to lend me
Spotted you a few dollars.
a few dollars to get out of, to be released. The last arrest took place a short distance from here, over on the Capitol ground, for 200 people, 8 members of Congress. We were trying to get the Speaker of the House to bring forth a comprehensive immigration reform bill. If we had brought the bill to the floor of the House, almost every single member on our side of the aisle would have voted for it, and we would have picked up enough members from the other side, and we would have passed it. And President Barack Obama would have signed it into law. It doesn't make sense for us to have millions of people, especially young people, children, living in fear that something's going to happen to them or to their parents or grandparents. You should set people on the path of citizenship. When the Pope came and spoke to a joint session of the Congress, he said we all are immigrants. We all come from some other place. And that will probably be the great debate in the days to come. None of us are really free until all of us are free.
Now it's time for you to ask questions. I know there are those of you who have read 1, 2, or all books in the trilogy, so now is the time for you to raise your hand, because if you don't, I will just keep talking more and more and more. Probably bore you to tears. Anyone? Oh, there's a hand raised up front here.
I didn't do
Yes, so
research.
stand up, please, so we can see you.
I didn't do research on you, but was you born like around when Martin Luther King was born, or is he older than you?
When were you born in relation to when Dr. King was born?
Well, Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. was born in 1929, and I was born in 1940. So in a sense, he was like a big brother. I met him when I was 18 years old. He changed my life. Andrew would tell you that he called me the boy from Troy. Probably in reading March, some of you read, when I was a little boy, growing up there on that farm, I wanted to be a minister. And we used to raise chickens. And I would, with the help of my brothers and sisters and cousins, we would gather all of our chickens together in the chicken yard, like we gather right here in this room. And my brothers and sisters and cousins would line the outside, but around the chicken yard. And I would start speaking or preaching. And when I look back on it, some of these chickens were by their heads. Some of these chickens would shake their heads. They never quite said amen. But I'm convinced that some of those chickens tended to listen to me much better than some of my colleagues listened to me today in the Congress. And some of those chickens were just a little more productive. At least they produced eggs. And Drew didn't want me to tell that story.
Well, we had to leave those lines out of the book.
I found that to be one of the more fascinating parts of the book, his relationship with the chickens. When he was talking to the chickens, and the chickens, he knew them, the chickens individually.
By name, yeah.
And after a point, he didn't like the fact that the chickens had to be killed in order to be eaten.
And I boycotted the meal. I didn't like the fact that my mother and father wanted to have some of those chickens for a meal. And I got to know these chickens. I told them to be quiet, not to make noise, not to fight, for them to love each other.
Any other hands raised with questions? Right down the front.
So actually last year, our school went on a field trip to a bunch of junior or Rangers memorials all around the South. And so one of the places that we actually went to was Selma, and we walked across the bridge that you walked across on. So could you tell us what some of your experiences were when you crossed that bridge?
When you cross the bridge.
Yeah. In Selma, Alabama, like so many other parts of the South, people of color could not register to vote because of the color of their skin. There were African American lawyers, doctors, teachers, housewives, and farmers were told that they could not read or write well enough. Sometimes people were asked to count the number of bubbles in a bar of soap, the number of jelly beans in a jar. One day, more than 300 public school teachers left school, lined up, and went down to the courthouse, received a copy of the test. They stood in line. The registrar closed the office, and they were denied the right to register to vote. And a few days later, as you saw maybe in the movie Selma, a group of people marching. It was a protest in the hometown of Mrs. Martin Luther King Jr., Coretta Scott King. One protester was shot and later died at the local hospital in Selma. Because of what happened to him, we made a decision to march from Selma to Montgomery. 600 of us in twos, orderly, peaceful, no one saying a word. The night before the march, the local sheriff, it was a mean man, really just mean, who wore a button on his left lapel that said never. He carried an electric caprider, and he didn't use it on cows, he used it on people. He would push people, he would beat people for exercising our constitutional rights. So on that bridge that Sunday, We got to the highest point on the Edmund Pettus Bridge. Down below we saw a sea of blue, Alabama state troopers. And we continued to walk. We came within hearing distance. A man spoke up and said, "I'm Major John Cloud of the Alabama state troopers. This is an unlawful march. It would not be allowed to continue. I give you 3 minutes to disperse and return to your homes or to your church." And a young man walking beside me, one of the leaders from Dr. King's organization by the name of Jose Williams, said, "Major, give us a moment to kneel and pray." And the major said, "Troopers, advance." I said, "Major, may I have a word?" He said, "There will be no word." They came beating us with nightsticks, trampling up with horses, releasing their tear gas. I was hit in the head by a state trooper with a nightstick. My legs went from under me. I thought I saw death. I thought I was going to die on that bridge. I thought it was the last nonviolent protest. And all these many years later, I don't recall how I made it back across that bridge to the little church that we had left from. But I remember being in the church and someone asked me to say something. And I stood up and said something like, "I don't understand it, how President Johnson can send troops to Vietnam, but can I send troops to Selma, Alabama to protect people who only desires to register to vote?" The next thing I knew, there's 16 other people who was transferred to a little hospital where a group of nuns took care of us. And just before the election, late last October, I went to Rochester, New York to campaign for one of my colleagues in New York. They took me to the mother house there, where some of the nuns are retired. And I saw the stained glass window that had been in this hospital. It's now in Rochester, New York. And some of the nuns that took care of me, they was there. They remembered me. And they started saying, "John, John, good to see you." And we all cried together.
Andrew Aydin, one of the things that struck me most in reading this trilogy was how John Lewis and the other protesters trained themselves to respond nonviolently to the most violent attacks by both civilians and law enforcement officers. You are even younger than I am. How did that strike you?
It felt like the most important fact we could possibly convey. I think many of us understand the broad strokes of civil disobedience. Maybe we've read Thoreau or Emerson or something like that. But really understanding the nitty-gritty, the details, the perseverance and the self-control it takes to be a successful protester or a successful activist at using civil disobedience. And over and over and over again, as you read these texts, as you read the accounts, the defining characteristic of the most successful protests is how orderly and how disciplined they were. And so for us, showing that discipline is part of the visual narrative. What allows it to be more successful in the visual medium is showing that discipline, not just telling. Showing how much they had to endure, whether it's the cigarettes being put out in your hair, the hot coffee being poured down your back, having your friends call you names. It was the most important thing we could convey.
Any other questions from students here? Right here. Yes, ma'am.
The question is for both of you all. You all say a lot about positivity. So do you guys see similarities in today's actions as far as protests than when you did in your day?
Well, today, I see similarities. The women marched just a few days, a few weeks ago, whether in Washington, in Atlanta, around the nation, around the world, people are using the same techniques and tactics. Some of the music was a little more upbeat. And music, Andrew would tell you, research, music is very, very powerful. I said on occasion, if it hadn't been for music, the civil rights movement would have been like a bird without wings. It brought us together. It created a sense of family, this sense of solidarity, that we're all in this thing together. And sometimes during the Freedom Rides in 1961, when we were arrested in Jackson, Mississippi, we filled the city jail, and later people kept coming. We filled the county jail. Then they took us to the heart of the Delta, to Parchment State Penitentiary. And the people would say, the guards, the jailers would say, if you don't stop singing those songs, we're going to take your mattress. And people would make up songs. Andrew probably can maybe sing one of them.
I was so low you can't hear me.
But today, you see people coming together in an orderly, peaceful, nonviolent fashion. I was so proud. I marched with the people in Atlanta. More than 63,000 people showed up, and hundreds and thousands from Atlanta came to Washington. When people showed up at the airport in an orderly, peaceful, nonviolent fashion. They learned. They're studying the movement. It's very similar. Andrew, I know you have something to add.
Well, I'm not going to sing. But I think when you talk about creating the climate, creating the environment for change to happen, music, pop culture, I think in this day and age we have to look beyond even that, social media, all these other factors. They play a role, but at the end of the day, it's people of conscience coming together for a purpose. I marched. I'm gonna blow out y'all's speakers at this rate. I marched here in D.C. and I'd never seen anything quite like it. I was at Barack Obama's inauguration in 2009. I staffed the congressman that day, and I walked through the crowds, and it was peaceful, and it was optimistic. But the sense of revolution wasn't. In 2009, we thought we were finished, right? And that's why 2010 happened, and that's what started this tumble. But what happened at the march, the Women's March, what's happened in the days and weeks since then, it's not just about optimism. It's about a sense of duty that we all recognize maybe we didn't do as much as we should have beforehand. But we all say with a collective voice, it stops now. We all have something to contribute, and we all will contribute. I think that very much permeated SNCC, that same feeling. Maybe in the latter days, from what I understand, it got lost in the freedom highs and things like that, but that sense that we all have something to contribute and that we will rage against injustice together is the most powerful development in my own life that I've ever witnessed of our society. And I hope you're prepared because we need you next. And it's not going to be easy. I spent most of the time making March, being afraid. And the congressman telling me, no, the best is yet to come. I didn't know if we would finish it. I didn't know if it would be any good. I didn't know if I would do a good enough job honoring the congressman's story. We're telling the story of all the people whose stories needed to be told. And that was just one small piece. So it's okay for you to be afraid. But you've got to be hopeful. And you've got to understand that the progress of this country is on your shoulders next. And my generation, Kojo's generation, the congressman's generation, we're doing everything we can right now. But we need you.
Anyone else? We have time for one more question. And needless to say, there are 4 hands raised. Young man.
Hi, this is just for Mr. Lewis, but what do you think was the most important thing that came out of the march?
Out of the march?
Yes.
Well, because of the march, excuse me, because of the march, I've been talking too much. I'm losing my voice. Thank you. I was in a committee meeting today, and I had to holler a little bit.
Good trouble.
I had to preach a little. Thank you. The march from Selma to Montgomery gave us the Voting Rights Act of 1965. It educated, it inspired so many people to stand up, to say to Congress, say to the President of the United States, we need to pass a Voting Rights Act. Because of what happened on Bloody Sunday, March 7th, the President of the United States, Lyndon Johnson, President Johnson, came and spoke for the joint session of the Congress and introduced the bill. We completed the march, and on August 6, 1965, the Voting Rights Act was signed into law. Hundreds and thousands and millions of people were registered to vote for the first time. If it hadn't been for the Voting Rights Act, I'm not so sure President Carter, or President Clinton, or President Obama would have been elected president. And I probably wouldn't be in Congress, and many other local elected officials, black, white, Latino, Asian American, wouldn't be in the Congress. But we still have a distance to go because the Supreme Court almost destroyed the Voting Rights Act 2 years ago. So we still have work to do.
And it rests on the shoulders of your generation to some extent. I'm afraid that's all the time we have. But thank you to Karen Jaffe and the entire team here at the Library of Congress's Young Readers Center. Thank you to Librarian of Congress, Carla Hayden. Get well soon. Thank you to Everybody Wins DC for bringing in this wonderful audience and for sending them home with copies of the book. And last, but obviously not least, thanks to Andrew Aydin and Congressman John Lewis for sharing their story. I'll close with the words of the late writer Frantz Fanon, who wrote, "It is the role of each generation out of relative obscurity to discover its mission and either fulfill it or betray it. Go forth and fulfill your mission." Thank you very much for being here. And that's it.